Everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of A24's new horror film, Undertone, which is directed by first-time filmmaker Ian Tuason. I believe I'm saying his name right. And Undertone is about a host of a popular paranormal podcast who becomes haunted by terrifying recordings mysteriously sent her way. The film stars Nina Kiri, who the only thing I ever saw her in previously was The Handmaid's Tale, the TV show that was on Hulu, and she's primarily the only character in this movie, at least visually. We don't get to see nobody else in this movie other than her mother, who's comatose throughout the entire film, doesn't speak and say nothing. But there are other voice actors. But as far as following a character, she's the only one. This film intrigued me. Curiosity got the best of me when it came to Undertone. Number one, it was promoted as the scariest movie you ever hear. And I'm like, okay, every year we get that one movie that's the scariest movie you ever seen or whatever, always promoted. And of course, it's never that. You never get that true horror film that would cause you to lose sleep at night, sleep with the lights on. At least those of us who are horror film lovers. But every year they always throw that out there, and I guess this is the film of 2026 that they're promoting to be the scariest movie you ever heard. Now, it was interesting that it was the scariest movie you ever heard, not seen. And so when you really think about that statement, I felt like, okay, maybe we're in store for something unique. I will say this is very, very unique. This is I wouldn't say 100% original concept, but it was done in a way that it felt original. This was a really, really good horror movie, and it doesn't have blood and gore and monsters and demons running around and all this other foolishness. What I really enjoyed about Undertone was the fact that they allowed your imagination to do all the work. This was truly a film that wanted the audience to do the work. It didn't dumb it down for you. It didn't spoon feed you throughout the film. Like, okay, this is what you was hearing and all this other food. No. It made your imagination do the work. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed this movie. This was it's nothing that I would say in a few months towards the end of this year, like, oh, it's going to be one of the best films of the year or be on my list. It could. I don't know. Who knows how the rest of this year plays out. But it is definitely a unique horror film. And now, will I consider it the scariest movie I ever heard? That's something that I might have to weigh on a little while, because I have to go through the filmography in my head that I've seen and think about it a little more. But it's not that scary. It's not scary in the sense of like tonight. I don't think I don't think I'm gonna lose any sleep, but it truly did play on the senses. The real star of this film is the sound design. The sound design in this movie was top notch, because when you're basically in the POV of our protagonist, the podcast host, and when she has her headphones on, you get to hear these recordings and everything, but the way the sound design is made or structured, it makes you feel like it's not only coming out of the headphones, but like it's in the house. And the way it was directed, she didn't know. It felt like she was hearing it outside of her headphones, like it was in stereo in certain points. And that's where the creep factor came in at. It really made it feel like these recordings were right next to you. Like you was like it wasn't recordings. Like you was literally hearing these voices. And that's what it was, voices. It wasn't like creepy demonic sounds. Yeah, you had some little voice modulations and stuff like that to make the voices sound deeper in certain points throughout the film, but it's not like you hear monsters roaring or whatever or scratching at the door and that type of stuff. It was really done in a creepy, realistic way that made it more creepy. That made it more scary than it should have been. It felt so organic the way it was done. Um, Along with the sound design that deserves praise, I got to give praise to the direction here. It was directed really well. I think that to say this was his first time, his directorial debut, Ian Tuason, I'm excited to see what he does next. Which, ironically, it was announced that he will be directing the next Paranormal Activity movie, which you can see the no pun intended, the undertones of that in this movie. It felt real Paranormal Activity ish, but it to a different degree. I'm not comparing it to any of those films. That's a different animal. But this will be exciting to see him take that property over and what he can do with that, because he definitely can set the atmosphere for those type of movies. And for that particular subgenre, it is perfect for that franchise. So I'm excited to see that. But he did an excellent job here. The one thing that I will say, it it tapered off at the end. It started off strong. It started off really good. Undertone. It set up everything that you needed to know going forward in the film. We got the story of our main lead. We got the story of the podcast and of the recordings, and everything was set up, I think, in a really good, well-paced way. And then when we get to the end of this movie, it was a little unsatisfying. The ending did not satisfy, and it didn't hit as hard as I was hoping it to. I see what he was trying to do there, but it really felt like they had to wrap it up. you know, like we had to wrap this movie up. Yeah, and it was just an abrupt, because it was a slow burn. It's a slow burn, but a nice slow burn. The movie doesn't drag per se, because it's only about an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes, something like that. So it's a quick movie. It's a quick watch. It doesn't feel draggy, but at points in the middle, as we get in this story and everything's unfolding, and then when we get to the end, the last 10-15 minutes, it was like boom, 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 boom. And it wasn't like action, it wasn't, it wasn't, any, monsters chasing her through the house or anything like that. It was just, I don't know. It wasn't as tense feel as the rest of the movie. And you want the ending to be on steroids, as compared to the rest of the film, as far as the tension and the creep factor, and it just didn't deliver there. Now I like the performance of Nina Kiri. I think she was really good as the lead here. Aside from that, everything else was just fine. It was a really good movie. I just wish the end was a little better, but I'm not hating it. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with this film. I thought it was just going to be a kind of throwaway indie horror film, but I walked away feeling that this is one of the better horror films I've seen in a long time. Undertone gets a letter grade of a B minus. Yeah, it was fine. It was better than fine. I'm super happy with this movie. I'm I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. I wasn't expecting much. I really wasn't, and I was pleasantly surprised by this film. I would like to know your opinions. What did you think of Undertone? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you despise it? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for this show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Undertone. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.